I snuggled deeper in my coat. It was a really cold night. I glanced at the time. It was 11:20 p.m. I was the only one awake inside the motel minus the security guards. I always worked the night shift here. I needed more than one job to pay my bills and let me live a comfortable life. I picked up the novel I was reading and proceeded to lose myself within its pages. A jingle of the bell attached to the front door made me look up. A man was walking in holding a briefcase. He looked really tired. I plastered on the bright smile and said, "Welcome, how may I help you?" The man looked at me and said in a loud voice, "A room." "Sure, which type of room?" He walked from the entrance where he'd been standing to the front desk. "Anyone that's peaceful," he whispered, looking at me through the reception glass with unblinking eyes. His face was hard, as if he'd been taught how to smile. His eyes bored into mine, making goosebumps pop out of my skin. I was suddenly grateful for the glass protecting me. It was about 3 feet high with a small opening that allowed me to receive or give through it. I handed the keys over and I told him it's the last room on the first floor to your left. He signed his name as Dave, wordlessly collected the keys from me and went upstairs. What a weird man. The next day, Dave, the creepy man, came in around the same time as the night before, still carrying his briefcase. I wondered what job he did that kept him out so late. I started calling him Dave, that creepy man, because I found it amusing. I greeted him when he came in, but he just looked at me with a furious expression and went to his room. I scoffed in annoyance. Good manners were hard to come by these days. I was 22, and life was starting to lose its excitement. I was determined to have fun wherever I could find it. That's why I read novels. They helped me escape to a world where almost anything is possible. My job at the motel wasn't stressful. We didn't have more than a handful of people who spent the night at once. I strongly believed something was wrong with Dave, the creepy man. He always looked at me like I did something that deserved his anger. I had to greet him every time he came in, only to be rewarded with his customary scowl. It had been 3 days now, and it was getting on my nerves. The telephone on my desk started to ring and I picked it up, responding cheerfully. There was no response for a while, but I could hear someone breathing down the line. I was about to hang up when the other person spoke. "I need dinner. Send it to my room." It was Dave, the creepy man. My mood turned sour immediately. I glanced at the time. It was midnight. I informed him that we didn't render such service at our motel. I told him he could order something and I'd send it up to his room. He hung up without a word. How could he expect dinner at this hour? This was the first time he spoke a full sentence to me. Dave was making me not look forward to my job. Just yesterday, he called that he needed someone to do his laundry. Again, I told him we don't render those kind of services. I even suggested giving him the number of some laundry companies, and he hung up without responding. Now the telephone was ringing, and I knew it was Dave without picking it up. I picked it up anyway, saying hello with a cheerfulness that I didn't feel. "Something's wrong with the tap. Come up and check it." I looked to the ceiling for patience. I told him I couldn't check anything because I was not a repairman, but that the management will send someone up in the morning to fix whatever's been broken. "But I need water now." His voice sounded menacing. I swallowed and I told him there was nothing I could do about it and that he should just be patient. I hung up before he did, feeling a pang of victory. I giggled before returning to my novel. I only had a few pages left and I was curious to know if the heroine would finally have enough confidence to plan a coup for the throne her brother stole from her. I heard footsteps echoing on the stairs and glanced at the time. It was 1 a.m. I wondered what the person wanted. There were only 7 people spending the night here. I saw Dave coming towards me with a baseball bat. Before I could move, he swung the bat at the glass surrounding me and it shattered. I yelled and covered my face from the onslaught of the glass pieces. "I'm going to kill you," Dave says, and the intention is well conveyed. I had never been more scared in my life. The security guards sometimes patrolled the surrounding area, so they might not have heard the commotion Dave caused. He reached in and tried to grab me. I smacked his hand away and ran around the reception desk. If I could make it outside, I would be able to get away from Dave. He ran after me and swung his bat. It connected with the back of my head with a thunk. I went down, holding my head. It throbbed. I struggled not to lose consciousness as Dave grabbed my hair and started dragging me on the floor. I kicked and struggled to no avail. He had an iron grip on me. You must have liked to anger me, isn't that right? You think you can control the world with your blonde hair and beautiful eyes?" I listened to his ramblings in shock, wondering what my blonde hair had to do with anything. I screamed for all I was worth, "Help, anyone!" I received another jab to my head. "Shut up," he growled. I pulled on the hand, dragging my hair, and bit hard into the wrist. He let me go, groaning. I crawled as fast as I could. The entrance was my finish line. I scrambled to my feet, half running, half limping. Finally, I made it outside. A hand dragged me by my waist and I screamed. My voice was hoarse. I heard a crack and the pressure around my waist released. I looked back to see Steve, one of the security on patrol, holding up a gun. He had used the butt of his gun to hit Dave's head. He was on the floor, knocked out. "Are you okay?" Steve asked, with concern in his eyes. I couldn't respond. I was paralyzed by fear. He handcuffed Dave and called the police. I narrated the ordeal to the officers, shivering under the blanket that they gave me. I quit my job at the motel the following day. No job was worth the risk of my life. I was young. I was only 25 years old and hadn't found my place in life just yet. This happened just before I became the successful real estate agent that I am today. I didn't have an expensive car or the luxury to travel anywhere I wanted in the world. No, I was just at the beginning of my journey. I was becoming a man, but at that time, I was still very much a kid. But there's one experience that I will never forget, and even if I knew it or not, it helped me build character. So, as I was saying, I was just 25 years old, a fresh college graduate with no real purpose in life. I wanted to get a job, but you know how it is. No one hires you without any experience, but you get experience by being hired. It's a vicious circle, I know. After about a month of job hunting, I renounced the idea of working for a big company, having an office job, and I started looking elsewhere. I saw an ad for a position at a convenience store. The position was for a store clerk, and I had to work the night shift. I didn't mind it that much. I was used to staying up late, so the night shift didn't sound like that bad of an idea. The interview with the store owner was, how can I put it, weird. He wasn't your typical employer, which asks you questions like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Or why did you apply for this job? No, he was kind of quiet, and actually, I talked the majority of the time. I started telling him about myself and my degree. I told him that I'm a team player and all those things you're required to say at job interviews. But as I was talking, I kept looking into his eyes, and he didn't seem to be all there. His eyes were wandering, and I didn't know if he was actually listening to me or not. He felt kind of absent from the entire conversation. Anyway, as soon as I stopped talking, he told me that I can start on Monday. I thanked him and stuck my hand forward so I can shake his, but he didn't seem to notice that. So I wished him a great day and told him I'll see him on Monday before leaving his office. On Monday, I ran into another guy, which was 3 or 4 years older than me. He was quitting his job and I was going to replace him, so he was there to show me where everything is and stuff like that. The guy's name was John, and he was really nice and helpful, answering all the questions I had. After the so-called training, before leaving out the door, he turned around and said that he needed to tell me something else. He said that the owner was weird. John said that he would catch him talking to himself quietly sometimes, and other times he would just stare at him or other customers. So he suggested that I would keep an eye open. The news didn't exactly go well with me. I mean, I worked the night shift. It was pitch black outside, and the owner, who was there all the time, was weird. Anyway, I thanked John for the advice, and then he went on his way. Even on the first day, I could feel the owner's eyes watching me, watching my every move. But he didn't talk. He just stared. I thought that he was doing that because it was my first day and he wanted to make sure that everything is in place and that I was doing my job perfectly. But this behavior continued for some time. Sometimes he would come over to the counter and say something, but I couldn't understand. It was like he was mumbling and whispering at the same time, looking through me rather than at me. It was very unsettling. Most nights, even though I found out from John that he had a wife, he would stay late at the store. He wouldn't do anything there. He wasn't staying because he had something to do or anything. No, he just stayed and stared. Oh, and sometimes he watched TV, but with the volume very low. But one day, he didn't come in at all. I was so used to him being there, Even though it was creepy, it felt weird when he didn't show up. But in my mind, I thought that he had stayed so many late nights that he wanted some time to sleep and relax. The owner continued to miss work. He didn't even come in on the next day or the day after that. He went missing for about 4 days. But in a sense, it was better because I didn't have his eyes on me the whole time and I could do my job without the pressure of someone watching me. On the 5th day, though, something happened. As I came to work, I noticed that his car was in the parking lot. He finally came, I said to myself. Maybe he took a little vacation. It wasn't like I knew that because he never talked to me. I entered the store and there he was on his chair. But something was off. He looked different. He was a weird man before, but now he looked drained, like he didn't get any sleep for the past few days. His complexion was bad and he had huge bags under his eyes. I said hi to him, but he didn't reply. He just continued to stare at nothing. There was something unsettling in the air. The vibe was weird. The only time he got up was to go to the bathroom. As he did, I could see that one of his shoes had a stain on it. He had brown leather shoes on his feet and a stain that was dark red or something similar, and it covered the outside of his right shoe. I didn't ask him about it because frankly, he would never answer me. As he was walking, I could see something else. On one of his fingers, he had a Band-Aid and blood was seeping through it. But before he went to the bathroom, I noticed that he reached into his bag and pulled out something that was covered in paper. It was something pretty long and it somewhat looked like a knife. Maybe it was just my imagination. This is what I thought at the moment. Anyway, I didn't give it too much thought about his appearance or the object. After my shift, I went home exhausted. I didn't know why, but all I knew was that I needed some sleep. I got myself into bed and turned on the TV. As I was switching channels, there was a breaking news report on one of them, so I stopped to see what's going on. The reporter said that a woman had been brutally murdered right there in her home. She had been cut open with a large carving knife and that she even resisted the killer, but eventually he overpowered her. He also said that the husband was in shock and wouldn't talk to the police. They were still looking for the killer. Then, as I was laying in bed, I remembered the object that he took out of his bag, and also the stain on his shoe and the cut on his finger. The dots connected and I just knew that the owner was the killer.